Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to News with Nick. Most of you have seen my 10 and 20 and 30-second clips when I've covered things on Facebook. Well, I'm going to take this to a new era and a new beginning. So, I'm going to be discussing topics, random topics. Could be sports, could be, I just don't know what I'm going to be talking, because some things I'm going to stay away from, because some things are too, to me, they're important, but I will get to later. What we're going to talk about today on my first installment of News with Nick YouTube style, this is going to go a little longer than my Facebook clips I used to do. We're going to talk about the war. The war that's going on right now in Ukraine. The invasion by Russia taking over Ukraine. Let's think about this, ladies and gentlemen. In 1939, Hitler did a lot of the same things, spoke rhetoric, united his people, and we'll talk about that part of it in a little bit, because I don't think they're all that united. But Hitler did a lot of the same things. Hitler went to the extremes where he started exterminating races in gas chambers and torturing them and countless other ways. But I want you to think about what's going on right now in Ukraine. The armies are leveling buildings and cities. They don't care who's in the buildings. They're leveling them. Women, children, men, all ages being, I use the word, exterminated, because he sees them as a threat to his country, to his way of life. I guess if freedom's a threat, they're a threat because they're a free country and they exercise their rights as a free country. Getting back to it, well, Hitler was like that. Hitler did the same thing, spoke the same rhetorics, started to take over Europe. Nobody did anything. And look what happened. It turned into the biggest war the world have ever seen. Well, I believe we're starting to head down that path right now. I believe we're in the beginning phases of it. Until the world stands up, I think we're in trouble. And I'm going to go into a few things. Now, while this is going on in Europe, and this is happening, now I want to talk about, before I continue, and I'm not going to edit this. I'm going to see how this works without me editing, because I think non-editing is important. Because you need to see it as it comes out and how it is. I can edit and add and do all that, but this is about speaking your mind. And I'm willing to read your inputs and see your inputs. I want to hear it. Because, let's face it, just because we say things don't mean we're always right. Sometimes people will talk to you, give you an idea, and you'll go, oh yeah, that's right. It is a better way to look at things. So this is where I'm going here. Well, that's going on in Russia and Ukraine. There's another part of the world with two other countries, China and Taiwan. We need to be careful in the United States, because if we don't stand up against this that's going on in Russia, I'm here to tell you, China's watching to see how we respond. If we do nothing, it's open invasion on Taiwan. Because Taiwan, like Ukraine, is a non-UN country. So Article 5 isn't governed by Taiwan or Ukraine. So if we don't stand up to them in Ukraine, it's a free-for-all. And now you're going to have two different parts of the world, two major countries that actually are allies, because one provides oil for the other's economy. So they're dependent on each other, major dependent on each other. And one that builds almost every product in your grocery store, in your market, your clothes. They need that gas. So they're going to ally with Russia, and that's China. And I say this because it's one of those things where I say, be cautious. The world in the 30s did nothing. World War III happened. The world's doing nothing right now. So history says, if you don't learn from your past, you will repeat your past. Have we learned from the past? Remember the first Gulf War? Iraq invaded Kuwait. The world united. Went in and beat back Iraq and got them out of Kuwait. What are we doing now? We're putting sanctions. I'm here to tell you, everyone, sanctions don't work. Sanctions carry no effect on the Russian government and their military might. What sanctions do is hurt the normal working people, the normal people who want the freedoms of the rest of the world in Russia. It will affect them getting food, them turning on the lights, them providing for their families. It won't affect the war machine. It won't affect the president and his circle. So when you put a stranglehold on the banks and all that, it's crazy. Now let's talk about what's really going on. Russia is also doing a lot of what, and I won't say what Hitler did because the media now is different, but he's shutting down all the Western news. Basically shutting down the internet from his people. Why? I'll tell you why. Because his biggest threat right now with this war in Ukraine is that he's overthrown by his own people. He's not afraid of the U.S. He's not afraid of anybody else. Actually, he's using fear against us, and we're responding like he was a bully attacking us on a playground and we just wanted to avoid him. We're stepping back going, hey, I don't want to do none of this. And what do I mean by that? That fear. He uses these threats like, and I might get the quotes wrong because I am not scripting this. I have nothing in front of me. It's just me talking to you here right now. He'll say, if you do anything, if you put a no-fly zone up, you will regret this. It'll be the worst thing you could ever imagine. It's using fear, because what's the worst thing we can imagine in a war? I grew up in the Cold War. I know what the worst thing is. It's a nuclear war. But who benefits from a nuclear war? Nobody. So is that him? Is that really what he's going for? A nuclear war? Or total takeover of Europe? I'm just throwing it out there. Think about it. If you got any suggestions, throw them on. Throw them on. I'll read them. I'll comment on them. Like I said, not always right. I'm just here. I'm just a person. Because I'm here to tell you, I've turned off all outside news for 10 months. I got tired of it. I got tired of the left saying this and the right saying that when neither one cares about us. But that's a topic for another day. But I want you to think about this. Russia, China. There's a couple other places in the world that if it turns into a Russia and a China thing, because the world is standing fast, just think about Iran. What if Iran went nuclear and they held the whole Middle East hostage? Now you're covering 3 parts of the world. Western society, as we see it and as we know it, would change drastically. But I'm going to go one step further. What about Korea? What if the North Koreans go, Kim Jong-il goes, Kim Jong-un, I think his name is. I get his dad and his grandfather's name mixed up. But what if he says, the world didn't do nothing with the other ones. I know South Korea is a UN sanctioned country, but they're so busy tied up in the other ones, they ain't gonna pay me no mind. And even that, if they do, I'll get Russia, China to side with me. They like me anyway. They give me what I need to run my country now anyway. Picture that, a 3 or 4-sided war in the world, or maybe all 4 of them uniting to take over the world. Now, this ain't fear mongering. This is what happens when greedy, power hungry people who run countries take over. It's what they do. One country isn't enough. So when you sit back in your chair tonight and you think about, well, it's not affecting me, not right now. But if something ain't done, it will. So I ask this question: why ain't we standing up to them? I know I said I don't believe in sanctions. So what is the solution? I'm going to say it. The solution might be force with force. It might be the world saying, okay, President Putin, it's time. This ain't happening. Now, we could be doing some things for the Ukrainians, and we're doing a little bit. We're giving them some arms. We're doing this and that. But how about that 40-mile caravan that's been sitting in park because the country Ukraine that they thought wouldn't be able to withstand an attack from Russia is withstanding the attack from Russia? I think it's quite amazing. A united people, a united free people willing to die for their freedoms. That sounds like America. That sounds like us. Now, what are we doing? Let's get back to that convoy. You can attack that convoy, decimate that convoy. If you armed them with the right stuff, where you can hit the front of the convoy and the back of the convoy and different parts of the convoy throughout it simultaneously at the same time. If you give them the right weapons to take care of it, as well as giving them the right weapons to shoot down the Russian jets. So we're giving them some, but we're not doing enough. Ain't it down my mind we ain't doing enough. And freedom in the world is being threatened because those 4 countries I bring to light to you don't believe in freedom. What happens if you're in Russia right now? They're shutting down outside news outlets. They're shutting down Facebook. If you protest, you go to jail. Now in Russia, jail doesn't mean you just go to jail and you get out. Depends on who you are. You could be in there for the rest of your life. You could be dead. The rest of society will be dumb to know because they won't be able to do anything because, well, we don't know who they did. Well, in China, it's the same way. You speak up against the Chinese government, you get the same result. Iran, identical. North Korea, identical. There's no freedoms. We have the freedom to watch what sports we want, play sports, go to a church, not go to a church, be a Democratic sided person, be a Republican sided person. Protest in the streets because you believe your rights are being violated and you have the right to protest. That's America. That's what makes countries like us different. And that's why the countries like the main 4 I talked about, they don't like us because it threatens their way of life without making a physical attack on them. You can do this by just educating the people, because eventually the people will stand up. But it's pretty sad that the biggest threat to Russia, to the Russian president, would be an uprising from within their own country, which is why they're shutting down the media, which is why they're not letting them see what's going on, because they don't want their people to know what's going on. They are not free. That's what they want Ukraine to do. They want Ukraine back. They're not free. Ladies and gentlemen, this is News with Nick. Tell me what you think. Um, this is the first one. We'll see how it goes. Let me know. This is News with Nick. I love you just like Jesus does. Y'all have a good day.